Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to share 9 essential questions to help you choose a business idea. We're going to talk about what's lost when most people work from home, and we're also going to cover that last mile in a project when everything seems to grind to a crawl. Let's get into it. Money isn't the point. A business should be about lifestyle, impact, and meaning. And you could still earn a ridiculous amount of money without sacrificing any of that. But you need to set your priorities. And that, to me, is what a lifestyle business is all about. Today's episode is brought to you by Fizzle, the company I co-founded to help entrepreneurs just like you navigate the sometimes stormy waters of building a business. Fizzle features the step-by-step roadmap for independent entrepreneurs and the most active and supportive community of lifestyle business builders on the web. Get access to the roadmap, weekly coaching, and hundreds of hours of video training, all included as part of your free trial. That's right, just visit fizzle.co/lifestyle to get a very special 5-week free trial. That's fizzle.co/lifestyle. You've heard it before. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Execution is really what matters. That's mostly true, but all else being equal, in other words, if your execution is the same for different ideas, then which idea you choose actually matters a great deal. Over at the Fizzle blog this week, we just heard from James Davis, who started 2 different businesses at the same time. One of those businesses, which was meant to help people run better summer camps, earned around $20,000, while another business, which is about fantasy sports, is now at a $250,000 annual run rate. And the kicker is, James actually spent more time on the summer camp business than he did on the fantasy sports business. So ideas aren't worthless. As our friend Derek Sivers likes to say, they're actually a multiplier of execution. In the article over at the Fizzle blog, James mentions a framework that he used for evaluating the fantasy sports business. And it turns out that framework was one that I had created a while back on the Fizzle show. So I'm going to share with you my 9 most essential questions to ask yourself when choosing a business idea. And the first is demand. Is this something people want? Next, you need to think about competition. Are there other people doing this thing? And if so, are they successful? A lack of competition isn't necessarily a good thing, because if there is no competition, it might mean that there's not enough demand, or that maybe the idea is too difficult to pull off. Next, think about how much you care. How much personal interest do you actually have in this topic? Personal interest can be a really strong motivator to keep going when nothing seems to be going right with your business. Then think about expertise. How much do you already know about this topic? Then think about specificity, meaning how broad or narrow will your view on this topic be? There is no right answer necessarily, but you need to think about it in terms of the demand and competition and all the other questions that we're asking. Next, think about differentiation. How will you differentiate yourself from the other offerings in this market? Then there's the issue of the likability of customers. How much do you like the kinds of customers that you'll have? This is something people often overlook, but if you don't like your customers, it can make for a really, really painful business experience. Then, can and will they pay? Do your potential customers have money, and will they likely pay for this solution? And finally, lifestyle. What would a really successful version of this business look like? What would it take to operate? Does it require a 200-person company? Could it be run with a single laptop in some beachfront community somewhere? What does it look like if this is successful, and will this fit your ideal lifestyle? James and his business partner used this framework, and they concluded that they should give the fantasy sports business a shot. Now they have over 1,500 customers paying around $15 a month, and they're growing nicely. Frameworks like this can be so important. Frameworks can help you avoid one of the biggest potential mistakes of all, which is overlooking something and passing on a business idea because maybe you just weren't in the right mood or right frame of mind when you considered it. Now, there aren't perfect answers to many of these questions, but you could easily turn this 9-question framework into a decision matrix to really help you compare and evaluate different ideas. I'd love to hear from you guys. Is there something you would add to this note? If so, leave a comment wherever you're watching or listening to this episode, YouTube or Facebook or iTunes or SoundCloud. And you can also just hit reply on any issue of the email newsletter and send me a note directly. Now let's talk about what happens when most people work from home. You've probably heard that working from home and having flexible work arrangements can be really great for productivity and work-life balance. But what happens to everybody back at the office when everybody works at home? In an article from The Atlantic this week, Max Neeson talks about a new study based on a Fortune 100 technology company that shows that remote work can actually have a negative and contagious effect on the office work environment. Max says that the issue is that when fewer people work in the office, people who actually go in don't get the social or productivity benefits they expect from being around friends, close colleagues, and managers. When no one's around consistently, they end up joining colleagues who spend some or all of their time working elsewhere, compounding the problem. I remember this feeling when I worked in an office situation where most people were out off-site at project locations. There really wasn't a whole lot of reason to go into the office other than to get out of the house. We've thought about this with the Fizzle team. As we grow, the desire to have an office gets stronger and stronger. It would be really nice to have a place to go to meet up, to shoot videos, and just to hang out with each other in person more often. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to create an office with an expectation that everybody is going to be coming in. I personally wouldn't want to come in all the time. But if everybody isn't going to be there all the time, is an office really just a more expensive alternative to a coffee shop? I think maybe the best way to approach this or to solve this problem is to create a hybrid approach where 1 or 2 days a week are designated as office days where most people are expected to come in, and the other days are office optional. I read about this approach with 37 Signals, or now they're called Basecamp, based out of Chicago. They've had some really interesting thoughts about remote teams, and they're a distributed team around the world, but they do have a lot of people in Chicago. Check out Basecamp and the book called Remote by 37 Signals, which is Jason Fried and David Hannemeyer Hansen. Of course, the Fizzle team is also somewhat remote, with Steph working in Chicago and me working from Mexico for a few months every year. And this complicates the problem because if everyone is meeting in an office regularly, it can make the people who are working remotely feel disconnected. Anyway, I don't have the right answers yet. We're still figuring this out as a team, but it is fun to think about, and I consider this really a good problem to have. Finally today, my friend Justin Jackson wrote a little post recently that he called The Last Mile. In telecommunications, the last mile refers to how cable or internet services actually reach your house. And that last mile can be a speed bottleneck, and in rural areas especially, it can be prohibitive or expensive to reach people. So the last mile sometimes is a difficult thing. In Justin's case, he's talking about the last mile in terms of getting a project done. Justin says, almost every project is enthralling at the beginning and a grind at the end. The last mile is the hardest, but it's also the most important. It's where you finish, wrap it up, ship it. I totally agree with this. I've been in this situation often where the first 80% of the work you need to do for a project cruises along quickly, and then the last 20% seems to drag on forever. In fact, I procrastinated so bad with one of my first products that it almost didn't ship at all, and it probably took about 4 times longer than it could have. And there's a real danger here that once you get stuck in that last mile cycle, you might never finish at all. That's why this idea of a minimum viable product is so important. It's just too easy to overestimate how much stuff you can get done in a project. It's much easier to define the minimum amount of features your product needs to be able to earn a sale so that you can get feedback from customers and improve and start the iteration cycle. Deadlines are also critical. In any project, there are really just 3 levers you can push and pull to get the project done. There are scope, time, and cost. And if you're a 2-person enterprise, there are really usually just 2 levers, either scope or time. So if you set out with a fixed scope, then time is the lever that has to move, and time can stretch out indefinitely. A smarter way to go about it is to fix time, meaning you set a hard deadline by which something is going to ship, and then you reduce scope as much as you need to get the project done on time. Whatever you do, remember that the last mile is usually a grind in every project. And if you expect this and use deadlines to help keep you on track, you're going to be much less likely to get stuck and much less likely to give up altogether. All right, that's it for this week's show. Remember, I'd love to answer your questions on the show about building independent, lifestyle-based businesses. Just leave a question anywhere you encounter the show. You can leave a question in YouTube or Facebook. You can send me a tweet. You can reply to any email newsletter that you receive and ask me there as well. And also, don't forget, we're on iTunes as of last week. You can just visit corbettbar.com/iTunes and check us out there. And if you do check us out on iTunes, please hit subscribe and leave a review. It makes a big difference to us. It helps other people discover the show. And to all of you who left reviews already, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's it for now. Have a great week. Get all of today's links and many more articles and resources for lifestyle business builders just like you in one convenient, curated weekly email. Head over to lifestylebusinessweekly.com and sign up for free. I'll send you 1 email a week, including a link to the latest episode of this show, new blog posts from me, and resources that will help you make more progress towards building a business that matters. That's lifestylebusinessweekly.com.